Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Friday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We've got a good show lined up for you today. We're going to crank it up here in just a second with JC. We were supposed to have Hugh Jackson, former NFL coach, had some issues, not going to have him today. We'll get him at a later date. We got JP Shadrick, who works for the Jacksonville Radio Network, does all their digital stuff, does tons of NFL stuff. We're going to get his thoughts on Urban and also what's going on with the Super Bowl. But first, let's go to the Titan Moore Hotline. And we're joined by JC. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Good morning. How's everybody? And we are just 2 days away from Super Bowl. Got another basketball game to talk about. Got golf. It's a great time to be alive in sports.
Great time to be alive. Yes, we haven't talked to you since the Gators lost the other night to South Carolina. Yeah. It happens. It's basketball. You're not going to win every game. I don't understand why people think you're not going to win every game unless you're Gonzaga or Baylor.
I guess the only surprise or shock value to this was the fact that South Carolina came in with a losing record and hadn't won a road game up until that one. But you're right, in basketball, especially in conference play, when teams travel, sometimes they get hot, sometimes they're awful. And when teams who are hot come back home, it's not uncommon to see sometimes there's a letdown, not on purpose, but just the shots don't go in. I mean, it's as simple as that, really. And I thought South Carolina outscoring them there late in the game or in the second half was the story. And certainly, Florida had a lead, but just
I talked about it yesterday. Yeah. The Gators were up 65-59 with 6 minutes left and the ball.
I know.
And they didn't score again.
Right.
Except 1 point.
Well, we talked about this, about having these droughts, these scoring droughts. If Florida's going to win, they can't afford those. And certainly when they play well and shoot well and things are going great for them, they're scoring over 75 points most of the time and winning these games, or at least coming close to winning them. But when they are in the 50s or mid 60s, it's a coin flip for Florida, I think. They win games when they score 75, 80 points, something like that.
Yeah, and they travel to play in Baton Rouge against an LSU team that is on the bubble now, who may have the most talented roster in the league, but they can't win games. And you got to question Will Wade at times. I just don't know why this team cannot win games.
I don't either. And for some reason, when they play Alabama, it's ugly. It's just, they were close at halftime against Alabama the other night, but you kind of got the feeling that all Alabama needed to do was string together a couple of threes or maybe go on a 6-0 run, and the game was over. And essentially that's exactly what happened. So LSU doesn't play well against Alabama. They really haven't played that well in the last month. And I think a lot of times basketball teams go through this February wall where they hit the wall because they've been playing since November. They're really close to March, and a lot of teams just want to get to March. And Fran Fraschilla has talked about this. He's written about and talked about hitting the wall in February. The February doldrums, the February blues, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes teams just are lethargic and they don't give it. They don't. The effort may be there, but the results aren't. And so, or the effort's not there because teams are either tired or they're waiting for March. They want to get going with the tournament, and especially with everything that people have had to deal with on the coronavirus front. With all the protocols in place, games being canceled here and there, not knowing and not having predictability on your schedule, that wears on a team. And in February, I can see there are some teams out there that are just wearing down. And I think LSU fits that category right now. That's not a team right now that I would say is guaranteed to make the tournament.
No, not at all. Before we get to our Peachland Dentistry Super Bowl picks, you got prop bets, you got all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama has another – maybe the best recruiting class of all time. I know, JC, you're excited. You had a lot to do with that recruiting class.
The alumni is a big factor. It always has been.
Are you here's the question everybody wants to know. Are you the bag man?
Everybody wants to know that. Well, if I was, would I tell you, QB, on nationwide podcasting and worldwide air? No, of course not. So we'll just let it be. But look, Alabama's 8 5-star picks. That 2017 class that won 2 national championships was really great, obviously. This class being considered by 24/7 Sports Index being the best possibly of all time just means that there's – if you're hoping Alabama just fades away and disappears like a thief in the night, forget about it, because 2 things are going to not happen. Saban probably, unless his health fails him, will be coaching until he's 80, and they will continue to recruit like this. And as long as they are recruiting 5-star players, top 10 type recruiting classes, and they back these classes up over and over again, the chances are extremely good that they will be in the playoffs year after year after year.
At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchased, $199 value. Service departments open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your convenience. This day in sports, in 2012, you know what happened? What Super Bowl that was, JC? Who played in 2012?
I would if I had about 30 more seconds to think about it, but I don't want people to watch.
Well, I'm going to let you know that the New York Giants upset the New England Patriots.
Right. Yeah.
Eli Manning was your MVP. That was when the Patriots were undefeated.
Yes, and they were Randy Moss, I think, was on that team, and they came close, but it didn't happen. And I think – let's see, the Dolphins went, 17? What did the Dolphins do in 72? How many games did they win? They won 14 in the regular season and then 3 playoff games, or am I wrong about that?
No, I don't even remember. I just know they're the only team that went wire to wire with no losses.
Wire to wire, but I think teams today are playing more games than the Dolphins.
Well, they are. They definitely are.
So New England may have matched or came close to the total amount of wins Miami had, but just didn't finish the season undefeated. So I'm not sure what the numbers are off the top of my head, but yeah, it was a great team, even though they didn't win.
Yep, it's time for the Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Visit them at peachlanddental.com and join us every Friday for the Peachland Dentistry, JC, and the QB weekend pick. So before we get to the Super Bowl, though, we were supposed to – you've been very busy this week, JC. We were supposed to pick our we didn't have you on Wednesday because it was National Signing Day and all that garbage.
Right.
We were supposed to pick our golf for the Waste Management out in Arizona, which is this is the one PGA Tour event where the fans go crazy. What is it? Hole 16, the par 3 has it's like a stadium and people hooping and hollering, yelling during their swings. I love it. So right now we could pick whoever you want. I'm going to go first. I'm going to take Xander Schauffele. He is 5 under par, tied for 6th. Who's your first pick?
Carlos Ortiz from Mexico at 4 under par. He's been playing well on the tour. Won a tournament not long ago, so I'm taking him.
Okay, I'm going to take Scotty Scheffler, another young gun.
That was my second one. Schmo.
Tough
break. So, okay, thanks. Let me go with Ocala's very own Ted Potter at 4 under par. Ted Potter at 4 under par.
I'm going to go with another young gun, Cameron Champ.
Yeah, I can hit it a mile.
You get one more pick.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with a guy at the top since I've got 2 guys who are 4 strokes back, and I'll go with let me go with Lashley.
Nate Lashley?
Yeah, Nate Lashley, FedEx Cup rank number 85. This is the kind of tournament guys come out of nowhere and win.
And for the record, Lashley. This is the 3rd tournament that you and I picked. Week 1, I picked the overall winner. Week 2, my guy finished higher than your guy. So I'm kicking your tail in golf, by the way.
Wait till the majors, brother. I get going during the majors. I'm a majors guy. Okay. That's when I shine. Okay. Just so you know.
All right. For the Peachland Dentistry weekend picks, we got the Super Bowl. What is the line of the Super Bowl?
All right. So right now it's currently at 3.5. It's pretty much stayed there. There is more bets on Kansas City, but shockingly, according to William Hill, there is more money on the Bucs.
Who is William Hill?
William Hill Sportsbook. It's probably the biggest on earth that goes digital. And they have basically the more money on Tampa. But with that being said, there are more bets on KC, and I'm sure that money differential will tighten as we get closer to the game. A lot of folks like to buy these half points if they take Kansas City and they're in a casino. They will bet Kansas City and buy the half point, pay a little extra for it, and get away from that field goal loser. So Kansas City beat Tampa, of course, the last time they played this game in Tampa by 3 points, but really dominated the game for most of the three quarters before the fourth, when Mike Evans caught 2 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter for Tampa to make it respectable. Kansas City was clearly the better team on that day. I think Tampa Bay's defense and as a team is better today than they were when they both played. Kansas City is Kansas City. I'm really kind of torn on this. I've got my heart set on Tampa Bay, but I don't know how you can bet against Kansas City, even though they're missing their starting left tackle. I really can't say who I like yet until I get out there. I'm going to Nevada, by the way, tomorrow, and I'm going to feel it out with some of the folks out there in those big sports books they have out there and see what the vibe is. But sometimes you go against the vibe if you want to be a winner. So.
Well, so basically on the Peachland Dentistry, you're not going to pick a winner. You're not going to pick something?
Yeah, I am. I'll take Tampa and take the 3.5 points right now, just because I know you're taking Kansas City. So
you're dang right I am.
Yeah, of course.
I think the Chiefs are the best team. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go to so many damn Super Bowls we can't keep up with them. Let me ask you this, JC. So you like Tampa. Do you think it's going to be like a shootout, or you think it's going to be a slow-scoring game?
I was listening to Danny Sheraton, who writes for the USA Today and does a lot of this handicapping stuff and has for years. And he has said that a lot of times when 2 high-powered offenses play, the under comes in much more than the over in the last 16 Super Bowls, and vice versa. When you have 2 dominant defenses in the game, the over comes in a lot more than the under in these Super Bowls. Last year, San Francisco and Kansas City had 2 pretty good defenses, but were really good on offense. And the game was 56.5 points on the total, and it came in under at 51. So that's just an example. There are plenty other examples. The Patriots playing the Rams a few years ago, 2 high-powered offenses, high number. The game ended 13-3. So a lot of times you go the opposite way on these totals. It looks like there's going to be some rain down there in Tampa. I'm not sure that'll matter unless it's an extreme downpour. But it's really hard to say.
Has there ever been a Super Bowl where it rained?
I'd have to think that.
I know when Rex played for the Bears against the Colts, when Manning won it with the Colts, I think it sprinkled a little bit in Miami.
Yes,
but it didn't downpour.
No, it wasn't a downpour, and I do remember it did sprinkle. It did. There was a little shower going on. I don't think it rained in New York when Denver played Seattle, but I would think there had to be something to that effect. Maybe early on in the Super Bowl, they try to put the game obviously in a very mild climate or in a dome. So. But they were dumb enough to put one in the Meadowlands. Well, but they got lucky though. I mean, there was really no weather issues in that game. It was a little chilly, but there wasn't any snow. There wasn't any rain. They just wanted to showcase that new stadium and have that market. But I don't know if they're going to go that route. And of course, with these new stadiums in Las Vegas and new stadium in Los Angeles, the Super Bowl will be there shortly, and we'll be in those stadiums soon. And I'm sure Dallas will have another Super Bowl at some point. I don't know what the next where the next games are being played, but I can tell you that LA and Vegas will definitely have a Super Bowl here within the next 5 years. I know Los Angeles is in the next 2 or 3 years. I'm pretty positive. So JC,
I know you've been studying the prop bets very hard. Give us some for our listeners to go make some money. Who's singing the national anthem? Don't they have one of these, like how long the national anthem will go?
Yes, and I was going to give you that one, but for some reason,
who's singing it?
Who is singing the national anthem? It's off my top of my head. But let me give you a couple examples of these early prop bets. Coin toss, even money, heads or tails. Will opening kickoff be a touchback? It's 2-1 says yes, and it's almost 2-1 to the underdog side that says no. What will the first offensive play be? A run play or a pass play or sack? Those are some of the even money bets. You can also go to a player prop bet like Patrick Mahomes. Passing yardage over 327 is minus 115. Under 327 is minus 115. Which way would you go on that one?
327.
327 and a half. How about?
How can you not bet the over? I mean, this dude could throw for 300 in the first half.
But the odds are the same for over and under, according to this. So, and I'm reading CBS stats, CBSSports.com. Passing TDs, both Mahomes and Brady over 2.5 at -120 or under 2.5 at -120.
Brady maybe. I would go if I had to pick something. I would say Brady under, Mahomes over.
Here's one that I love. I love this one. Longest completion over 39.5 yards, under 39.5 yards.
God, that doesn't seem like a lot, does it?
It doesn't, but why is it only 39.5? Longest completion can be a swing pass or a quick slant, and then Tyreek Hill takes it to the house from the 20-yard line.
It's not how far that's crazy.
I'm probably going to get that one. I'm probably going to get me that one because I just think that is considerably way too low. And then they have prop bets on other players catching the ball. Leonard Fournette, for example, rushing attempts over 11.5, under 11.5, rushing yards over 47.5, under 47.5. That seems low as well for Leonard Fournette. Seems to be the go-to guy. Anytime touchdowns, anytime in the game, if you think Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce is going to score a touchdown for Kansas City, all you have to do is lay $16.20 to win $10.
Say that again.
Anytime, just Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill.
Just one of those guys score a touchdown in the game.
Just scoring a touchdown, you have to lay $16.20.
What do they have on the odds of who scores the first touchdown, or don't they do something like that?
Yeah, they do. But I wanted to give you some other late prop bets, like will there be a score in the last 3.5 minutes of the fourth quarter? Yes is -2.5 to 1, and no is +2.5 to 1. What team will score last in the game? Kansas City or Tampa, obviously. Will the last play of the game be a quarterback rush? Meaning, will he go in victory formation? You can bet on that. More points will be scored in the first half or the second half. Typically, it's very creative stuff here, and it's interesting. Team to score the longest touchdown, Kansas City or Tampa, and obviously Kansas City is the favorite in that one. Will there be 3 unanswered scores in the game? Total players with a pass attempt. It's over 2.5, under 2.5. That means we've got Mahomes and Brady, but will anybody else in the game throw a pass? That has to be one more player who just physically throws a pass for you to get the over in that game. Third down conversions in the game, over 12, under 12.5. And it really just goes on and on and on. And so when you're sitting there in a sports book in Nevada, because it's going to be very crowded in there, and out there the game starts at 3:30 as opposed to 6:30 because of the time change in the time zone that you're in, you literally got to get there 8 hours in advance. So you go over these kinds of things to occupy yourself and to try to figure out how to get a couple of extra dollars on the game outside of the final score and the winner. And it'll preoccupy your time. Now, if you think the game goes to overtime and you think that could happen, you will get 7-1 odds on whether or not it will go to overtime. And if it doesn't,
has a Super Bowl ever gone to overtime?
Well, again, how many have we had? 54 of them now?
I don't think there has been one.
I don't recall one, but and then, Super Bowl MVP, Mahomes -120, Brady +2 to 1. Tyreek Hill is 12 to 1 as an MVP. Travis Kelce is 13 to 1 as an MVP. And everybody else on the board is 25 to 1 for the MVP award in that game. It's really interesting. So there's a lot of other things you can do just other than pick the winner of the game. And again, when you're sitting in that building waiting for the game to start because you have to get there early, these are the kinds of things you can talk to others about and have fun with, and certainly not. So
you like the Buccaneers and the longest pass going over 39.5
That's
yards.
My favorite prop is the longest pass over 39.5.
You don't like heads or tails, JC?
Well, you do have a 50-50 shot, which is better than any other bet in the casino, isn't it?
I can't believe you don't know who's singing the national anthem.
I can't. I heard about it, but I'm not so much into the singers and the dancers and all. They all look the same to me, and they all do the same damn thing. I can't tell you the difference between what J-Lo does and what Madonna does. I have no idea. But I just think that, they do the timing on that. When Whitney Houston sang it one year, they said, will she sing and will it go longer than 2 minutes and 35 seconds?
It's Eric Church. Church.
Well, there, you just looked it up for us. How about that?
Yeah, I like some Eric Church. He's one of my favorites.
Eric Church there will be a bet on that board as to how long his rendition.
He'll be long. He kind of draws his song. His songs could go a while. So take the over there, JC.
Okay. Well, I'd like to know how long I have to wait for that bet to come in before he quits singing. But yeah, I would tend to agree with you there.
Wouldn't you like to be buddies with Eric Church and say, hey man, I'm going to put a lot of money on this. You need to sing, like just draw every note. Yeah. And this thing needs to go about 3 minutes.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody does that or did that. I think the game is, it's somewhat tempered down a little bit because of the COVID and the fact that half the stadium is going to be empty. But they'll do the best they can to make it look as aesthetically exciting as possible. And there will be more fans in the stadium than there had been for a previous regular season game. But with the weather looking rainy and with, the way COVID has taken away all of the pregame and pre-week stuff that's gone on in prior Super Bowls that is typical of a Super Bowl preparatory week not taking place. This is just another game for the Chiefs. They're going to fly in on Friday and fly out on Monday, just like they would typically in a regular season game, except on a regular season game, they would leave on Sunday after the game. I would think after the Super Bowl, Pat Mahomes will go to Disney World, right? And the rest of the team will stay there Sunday night and celebrate, and then they'll leave on Monday and go back to Kansas City. But they won't be flying in till Friday, till tomorrow. And so it's just been strange the way it's worked out. Too bad for the city of Tampa. I mean, this is hurt economically, not having the typical Super Bowl that you would hope for. And it really hurts having your home team play host to the game, first team ever to do that, and you have to deal with this. But it's better than nothing, and it's better than not having the game play. None of the players have tested positive for COVID. Everybody looks good, and I think we're going to have a whale of a game. I think Tampa, by playing defense the way they've played it against Green Bay and New Orleans, will stay with Kansas City, but it's sure hard to bet against the Chiefs, man.
Yep. All right, JC, have a safe trip. Be safe out there. Go win yourself some money. Hopefully somebody throw a pass more than 39.5 yards for your sake.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in the air. It can be on the slant, and Tyreek's on his way. So there you go.
All right, that's JC. We'll talk to him next week. Have a good trip, my man.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Hey, folks, let me tell you about one of our new sponsors, G-Tech Clean.
G-Tech Clean is your complete germ protection. It's EPA approved to kill COVID-19 and kills 99.9% of all germs and viruses, black mold, and also deodorizes. It's the safest, affordable way to clean and sanitize your business, no matter if it's a gym, school, retail store, or office. Use it in your home anywhere from the bathroom to the kids' room. It's formulated to provide 24/7 protection and is over 30 times more durable than any other cleaners. Try G-Tech at home as well.
G-Tech Clean. I keep the Pot Up Studio clean of any germs, viruses, and COVID-19 related stuff, and so should you.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Harder Apparel, Ruse Ogra Insurance, If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Friday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Dave & Buster's, coming soon, Prime and Pearl, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan Tomorrow hotline and head up to Jacksonville. We're going to be joined by JP Shadrick, who is the reporter and digital host for the Jacksonville Jaguars, also play-by-play for Touchdown Radio. Good morning, JP. How are you, my man?
Good morning, Shane. It's good to be with you. Thanks for having me. And, boy, there's been a lot going on in the last few weeks up here in Jacksonville, and the offseason is already rolling. We're fired up. We're way past the playoffs and the Super Bowl. We're not worried about all that around here. We're on to 2021.
There's no doubt about it. I know there's a lot of buzz in Jacksonville, and we're going to talk about the Super Bowl here later, but I want to talk to you because you're very close to the Jaguars organization, having doing all their digital radio stuff. Urban Meyer, just tremendous football coach. The city of Jacksonville has to be extremely excited.
There's no doubt that the excitement level is very high. And in fact, lower bowl season tickets are almost gone. After that announcement of Urban Meyer, there was a big surge in ticket sales and deposits, which is a good start, you know. So people are, I think, reacting and fired up for that. And you guys know well the track record that he has down in Florida, 2 titles there, got things done at Ohio State as well. 17 seasons, never had a losing season in college football. But now the big question is, can he bring that to the NFL? Can he manage the NFL player like he did the college player? And his argument is that there's so many NFL players that he's had through his programs that have gone on to success in the National Football League. Well, the story here is that it is Urban Meyer's show, Shane. This is Urban Meyer was hired. Trent Baalke was then later hired as the general manager. But when Shad Khan, the Jaguars owner, says, you know, this is Urban Meyer's vision and the GM and the owner will support that vision, that tells you who's really in charge around the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is going to be in Urban's likeness. I don't think there's any other way he would have left the television chair to come coach. It had to be a perfect opportunity with everything around it, the support of the owner, the GM in place, and an ability to build a staff and build everything around the football team and have the number 1 pick. All of that had to come through, I think, for him to leave. So it's a perfect opportunity for Urban, the chance to go see if he can do it in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the great thing, one of the things that may have been intriguing to him is Jaguars have a lot of good young talent. But when you have the first pick and you have a guy coming out of college football as talented as Trevor Lawrence, and I've said many times on my show, JP, he's the most NFL-ready quarterback I've ever seen. You know, people say maybe Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, but this guy is way more athletic than those guys. So it is the perfect storm, if you want to call it, for Urban to have a guy that he can build the franchise around. And let's be honest, if you're going to win at any level nowadays, you better have a stud behind center. And I think he is a stud.
And the Jaguars have not had that position right, really, over the last, 15 years. Since Mark Brunell is probably the last one you could really hang your hat on around here. Byron Leftwich had a couple of years, and David Garrard, that was a running offense. He didn't throw it around the yard a lot. And then Blake Bortles was the most recent one that lasted a few years, but there weren't really many good years in that. So, yes, and Urban even said that in one of his opening press conferences. They asked him, how big was the number 1 pick and you coming? It was huge. I mean, if you didn't have the number 1 pick and the ability to get the franchise-type quarterback that can be here for a generation, that's, I think, part of the reason why, and a big reason why. And they do have some pieces on offense. And I'm very cautious when I say that because I know the Jaguars were 1-15 last year, Shane. They lost 15 straight games at the end of the season after winning in week 1. But they do have a couple of receivers that are young and talented. DJ Chark, one of those. Laviscus Chenault is another that can move around, a big, sturdy wide receiver, but he does have some injury issues. They have a young running back in James Robinson they're happy about, but they'd love to fill that out a little more. And they're actually pretty happy, I think, with how the offensive line played as a whole last year, especially the interior 3 guys. So they have some things to build on offense. Defense is a whole different story around here. They've got a lot more issues on that side of the football. But that number 1 pick is huge because this is the first time the Jaguars have ever had it. They were one of 4 teams remaining in the NFL to never pick number 1 overall. Now you're going to do it, and you're not only going to do it in this season, you'll do it with, as you said, one of the all-time great college quarterbacks coming out that could be a fantastic professional player as well.
Speaking of the defense, former Gator who was a first-round pick for the Jags last year, CJ Henderson.
Yeah,
I want to say I don't follow the NFL that closely, JP, but he played well at times. But wasn't he injured most of the year?
He was banged up. He had some shoulder issues. He had his best game was week 1, his NFL debut. He had an interception off Phillip Rivers, and the Jags won that game. The defense had a big hand in that game, and he was physical, came up and made tackles. His play was just inconsistent as the season went along, and some injury issues were a part of that. I'm curious how this offseason will be for him now that he's in the program. Last offseason was weird for everybody because they weren't really around the building at all until July. So if they're allowed to be around the building and be in the weight program and he'll have new hands on him this year because of the new coaching staff too, how he adjusts to that, I think will be key. So the second offseason, the offseason after your rookie year is really when you see a lot of growth. And let's hope for CJ Henderson. I think that'll be the same way. In the secondary, though, Shane, he's really the only guy, because of his draft status, that is locked in, I think, to a starting job. Everybody else is up for grabs.
Mm-hmm.
There are some names that'll be back around here, but there's no guarantee. Chris Ash is reportedly the secondary coach for the Jaguars. They haven't announced the staff yet, but he has his hands full to figure out who's going to play around CJ Henderson this year.
And on offense, I think the story of the Jaguars this year was the undrafted free agent rookie, James Robinson, who had a hell of a year for a guy that, wasn't drafted.
It was unbelievable. It really came out of nowhere. I went and called the East-West Shrine game down in St. Pete in January of last year, so before all hell broke loose, right? So, and he had an unbelievable game. This guy, he had like a 67-yard touchdown run. He had another catch out in the flat that he weaved through the defense for about 70 yards. And he didn't win the MVP of the game somehow because Benny LeMay from Charlotte scored a late touchdown and the other side won. But he had an outstanding output in that game. And he actually took a couple to the house, right? That didn't happen. That's not his MO now. So he gets to Jacksonville, and he's behind Leonard Fournette, who's a top 5 draft pick here a few years ago. Everybody knows Leonard pretty well from the SEC, obviously. But, this offseason program happened virtually. You didn't get a chance to see him on the field or Leonard on the field this offseason. And then once training camp rolled around in July, he just outplayed Leonard. He just looked better. He was more decisive. He made cuts and went the one cut down the hill through the hole, and he's moving the sticks. And Leonard just wasn't doing that enough. So it was enough for the organization to waive Leonard Fournette and put James Robinson in a starting role. And it worked. I mean, the guy was really, really consistent. And there was a point late in the season, Shane, where he only had, this is probably week 13 or 14, he only had like 12 negative runs the whole season up to that point. So even if he's hitting the backfield, he's finding a way back to the line of scrimmage, or he's pushing the pile ahead for 2. He's not going for 70, but he can go from 5 to 10 and move the sticks. And it was perfect for this team. They need a complimentary back, though. They need somebody that can go out and, third down, out in the flat kind of thing, because he was playing almost every down this year.
Yeah. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. February is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with JP Shadrick. You can follow him on Twitter at JP Shadrick. He's a digital host for the Jags, also play-by-play for Touchdown Radio. Okay, so Urban is there. He hasn't officially announced his staff, but word is that Darrell Bevell will be his offensive coordinator. Former Gator player Brian Schottenheimer, who the Gator Nation's very familiar with, should coach the quarterbacks, which I think is a good move. But it looks like Urban's going to have a mix of some college guys, but some guys that have some NFL experience.
To me, Shane, it feels like that is the case. I mean, it has to be, because Urban's never been at this level before. So you need some folks who have experience dealing with NFL players on a day-to-day basis, and the X's and O's, and how do you work with these guys in the building, right? I mean, he hasn't really done that. Or somebody to just lean on for advice in the NFL, and guys he can trust. So Bevell's the reported name for offensive coordinator. He has a history working with younger quarterbacks. He has a history working with Hall of Fame quarterbacks going back to his old days back in Green Bay, and then on into Minnesota when Favre followed him there, and then Schottenheimer as well. And for me, the offensive coaches, especially the coordinator and whatever turned out to be the quarterback's coach, sounds like Schottenheimer will be the passing game coordinator as well and work with the quarterbacks. Those are the two most important assistant hires this year for Urban Meyer because of the number one pick and everything going into that quarterback position. No offense to Joe Cullen, who's a reported name as the defensive coordinator, the former Ravens defensive line coach, a longtime assistant here. But for this team and this offense to move forward, those two hires were huge. So Cullen's the other name at the defensive coordinator spot. And he's been around here around the NFL for about 15 years. He was in Jacksonville for 3 years as a position coach. He had some off-the-field things about 15 years ago that I think have held him back from moving forward as a coordinator before. We won't go into them here. You can Google them. They're easily found. But I think he's well past all that, and I think he's proven it. And this is the time for Joe Cullen to come in. And I'm excited whenever Urban announces these, we'll finally get to talk to these guys, I think, and get in their brain a little bit about, are we running a 4-3, 3-4? What kind of offense will this be? What are the tenets of this football team? We're not quite there yet, but we're right on the edge.
JP, you do a pregame show, postgame show for the Jaguars, and Fred Taylor, former Gator, is involved with you. And, I firmly believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I think if he played for any other organization in the National Football League, he would already be in there. Your thoughts on Fred as a player for the Jags, and do you think he will eventually make the Hall of Fame?
I think he's obviously very deserving. And yes, we do a 3-hour pregame show and 2-hour postgame show on Jaguar Sundays, and Fred's heavily involved in our postgame coverage, certainly is involved as well in our pregame. And he does the in-stadium video board things for the Jaguars as well. So he's a big piece of what we do. He didn't make the semifinals this year. Last year he did, down to 25, right? And that gets you in the room for the selectors to talk about you, really. You don't get talked about until you're in that room. It's usually the day before the Super Bowl. And he didn't even make that down to 25 this year because I think there were so many new big names that were eligible this year, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, that maybe he just was not on the cut to get to the 25. I think he'll be back in there at some point. And down the line, it might take a little bit. They're going to realize, oh, wait a minute, this guy was right there in that golden era of running backs in the NFL. He was as good, if not better, than a lot of these guys. Let's turn on the tape with him, right? I mean, he had huge plays and big moments. And yes, if he was in another market, he might have gone to 2 or 3 more Pro Bowls, which would help his cause, I think, right now. He only got to 1 late in his career. But there's no doubt he deserves to be in the conversation. And I think at some point down the line, I think he'll have a chance to go in. It's not going to happen next year. There's going to be some years of conversation and, just talking about it and getting it moving forward to try to get him up to the top. It can happen, but it's going to be a longer push, I think, than a lot of people would like. And it's not fair because he deserves to be in right now. But at some point, he should be.
Yeah, I agree. All right, JP, let's switch gears to the Super Bowl. I think it's kind of a dream matchup for everyone. I think if any of the 4 teams that were in the championship games go, it's a dream matchup. I don't think the Jags played either one of these teams, if I'm not mistaken, this year. You've been watching, obviously, Tom Brady for a long time, covering the NFL. What he's done is remarkable. Do you think Brady can pull this off against the Chiefs, where I think Patrick Mahomes is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen? I've said this on my show, JP, and it's crazy. I think he's going to go to more Super Bowls than Tom Brady if he stays healthy. This should be his third straight Super Bowl if you think about it.
Yeah.
His first year starting, they lose to the Patriots in overtime, where he'd been 3 straight. Just your overall thoughts on this game.
Well, I'm never, I work for an NFL team, so gambling is illegal at Bushwood, sir. So, but if I were outside, I'm not betting against Tom. I mean, that guy, because he can pull a rabbit out of his hat at any time, it feels like, even with maybe names that you don't know around him. He made a career of that in New England. And so that said, I think this offense for the Chiefs, when they're rolling and they're healthy and they've got all their weapons and all the speed, I know the Bucs defense is good. I don't know if they're that good. They might hold them down and hold them close for a little bit. Look at the Super Bowl last year, right? All of a sudden the Chiefs are out of it, and then boom, second half, here we go. Fourth quarter, the Chiefs are the Chiefs again, and they rolled the Super Bowl title last year. I think that's a similar thing this year. The Bucs might hang with these guys for 3 quarters, but I think in the end, late third, into the fourth quarter, the speed and just the way they run sideline to sideline to make the defense run all game wears those guys down. I think they can take advantage of that. Tom Brady's been now in his 10th Super Bowl, Shane. So if Patrick Mahomes goes to 11 Super Bowls, I mean, what kind of career would he have had? We're already talking about uncharted water for Tom Brady. He's been to a Super Bowl half of his career. Missed 10 out of 20 years. He's been to 18% of the all-time Super Bowls has had Tom Brady playing in it. So those are big-time numbers. But Mahomes seems poised to be a guy that can get close to that. I'll give you that with everything going. Now, there will be change in that time. I mean, Andy Reid is no spring chicken anymore, right? I mean, he's getting up there, and at some point, they'll have to consider what's going to happen. I'm not kicking him out the door yet. He's still in his prime, obviously. But at some point, that'll change. And how does that change Mahomes and the offense and how things are dealt in Kansas City? We're a long way from that. But I think Kansas City by 10, 35-25, something like that, they pull away in the fourth quarter.
It's interesting in this game, the Jaguars are well represented on both teams. You got Byron Leftwich, who's the offensive coordinator. You got Fournette, who's a tailback. And then you look at both backup quarterbacks played for the Jags at one time.
Yeah, it was Blaine Gabbert was the starter, and Chad Henne was his backup in 2012, right? That was my first year with the Jaguars, and it was the picture the other day. If for some reason COVID or something happened to both starting quarterbacks, it would be Gabbert versus Henne, which would blow Jacksonville's mind, I think, on television, because that was just a few years ago. They were both here. But good for Leonard, right? I mean, I always liked Leonard. As a guy in the locker room to deal with. He could be a little prickly at times when things weren't going well, but who isn't, right? Okay, that's fine. But good for him. I think he did have some off-the-field things here, very minor, by the way, and I think he grew from those when he got released. Who expects Leonard Fournette to get released? Well, least of all, Leonard Fournette. Like, they're not going to cut me. I'm Leonard Fournette. I'm the starting running back. I think it humbled him a little bit. And he took this offseason, or going into this season and this next opportunity, really to heart. And it helps that you have the all-time great quarterback on your team to really help motivate you, say. But good for Leonard. I think he's stepped up. He's learned his role there. It was the backup role to start, but they needed him late. He had some big-time games down the stretch and in the playoffs. So I'm happy for Leonard. There's no doubt.
Back to, you mentioned something about the Chiefs, their offense, all the athleticism, the speed they have on offense. I remember, back when Urban was at Florida, he always wanted to have like the fastest team in the country. And he had Rainey and Demps and all these track guys. And I know you haven't been able to speak with them. They haven't really announced the staff. But do you see Urban going back to, wanting to have the fastest guys on offense in the league?
I think that's what he knows. Yeah. I mean, that's the comfort zone. When you have faster guys than anybody else, you can afford a mistake or two because you can outrun it, right? Percy Harvin was on that list too. You left him off.
He was pretty good. He was pretty good.
He was decent, right, down in Florida. Yes, absolutely. But they don't have that's the problem with the Jaguars roster right now. There aren't any of those really dynamic speed demons on offense. You're going to have to start that really from scratch if you're going to find those guys and start drafting ahead of Kansas City, right? Because they always seem to take somebody like that in the first and second round and turn them into players. Yes, if you can get it out wide, get it to playmakers in space, then the options are much more open for Trevor Lawrence to be able to either run himself or get it to a tight end. Then if you got everybody covering outside, then it's wide open.
The thing that I don't know, guys, I know you do a lot of stuff with Baselli and Fred Taylor, a bunch of former guys, NFL players. I think the thing that I'm intrigued about with Urban being there, because Urban's such a motivator, in the offseason, he had guys doing all these mat drills with competition against one another. Well, that ain't going to fly in the NFL. So I'm so anxious to see what he does from a motivational factor with these older, because you're going to have guys from 22-year-olds to 40-year-olds. And I'm just not sure he's going to be able to do some of the tactics that he did in college.
Yeah, because the rules don't allow it, right? I mean,
Right.
there's just a limited window of time on the field, and that's it. And it's collectively bargained, and you're not going to do something to upset the Players Association, because that has been done around here in the past few years, right? So I think it's a whole change of approach from the ownership down. But he can still do that. He can still stand in front of a team and get their mind right. I think that's him. That's in him. I don't think the level matters for that. I think he'll have to, that's why the last year or two he's been studying the league and talking to people in the NFL, his former players in the league, about how to approach something like this. He's not just coming in blind. Like, he's not just going to roll the dice, go up there unprepared and start motivating guys. Like, he has a plan for this. And yes, you might not see the tug of war drills or whatever,
Right.
any of that stuff. That doesn't happen in the NFL. It shouldn't happen in the NFL. But he'll have his plan. And that's why those other, like I said earlier, those coaches around him are so important. Guys who know the NFL, know how to approach players for a certain issue. He has those guys in his corner. He has to trust those guys. That's why it's a mix of NFL guys that he knows, or that people he know have brought to him, or the college coaches he's been with for the long haul. That mix of staff, I think, will help his approach to the NFL player.
Last thing for you, JP, just kind of around the league, big trade. I've always been really high on Matthew Stafford, thinking he just needed to get out of there. And he's going to a really good football team. Do you think the Rams gave up too much for him?
Well, that's a great question. They feel like they're a quarterback away in LA. Obviously, if they're giving up some draft picks and their starting quarterback, but hey, you know what? If Stafford has 5 years left in the tank, okay. If that's what you feel, you're away from being a competing year after year playoff team that can go to the Super Bowl, go for it, right? This is going to be a case study in roster building. Can you build a team without first-round draft picks? Are the first-round picks more valuable as veteran players that you know what they are coming back to you? Or is it better to just pick the guy and develop him and see if he works out? Charlie Casserly, NFL Network, always says that 50% of first-round picks work out. That's not really a good ratio. And around here, it hasn't even been close to 50% of the first-round picks we've selected over the last 10 years. They really haven't worked out for one reason or another, but especially on the field. A lot of those guys just haven't played up to that expectation. So is it better for an organization to trade the first-round picks for a guy like Stafford, who you know what he is? He's a Pro Bowl quarterback. He has the ability to lead your franchise. I think we'll see in 5 years if it works or not. The Rams have tried a lot of different things over the years in terms of building that roster, spending a lot of money on everything else except a quarterback, and they finally did pay the quarterback. Now they've got to figure out the financials of that as well. But I'm curious. We'll see, because they do have everything else pretty much in place in LA. If Stafford's the missing piece, they could go a long way.
Yeah, there's no way that, there's been word out there or talk or rumors. No way the Jaguars trade that first pick for Deshaun Watson, right?
No, I don't think so. Now, nobody's told me that, but now Urban does have a history with Deshaun Watson, by the way. He recruited Deshaun to try to go to Ohio State, and Clemson beat him. And that was the one that got away for Urban as a quarterback in college, the one that he really wanted. But with Trevor Lawrence staring you in the face, I think, and you don't want to help a team in your division either. That would really help the Texans to get him off and get the numbers off the books and move on and move forward. So, they're in a bad spot down in Houston, and you're in a good spot to go get a guy you really feel like it. Well, then again, maybe they'll take the Rams' perspective and trade all the first-round picks away. I don't know yet, but I think it's going to be Trevor. I don't think they're trading that pick.
I agree. JP, we really appreciate it. Let everybody know how they can listen to the Jaguar pregame stuff and other stuff that you have going on.
Yeah, no doubt. We're on 1010XL Radio in Jacksonville. That's our flagship station. We have stations all around the state of Florida as well on our radio network. That's on Sundays in the fall, by the way. Jaguars.com. All our video content is there, including the interviews and the press conferences with Urban Meyer and the general manager, Trent Baalke, and the owner, and everything coming up whenever the staff is announced. I think early next week, Shane, that'll happen. So check us out there, and also on Twitter at JP Shadrick, at Jaguars. We've got everything online you could ever want for Jaguars football.
No doubt. Hey, man, appreciate it. Enjoy the Super Bowl. You have 35-25, right, is your pick?
35-25 Chiefs pulling away late.
I have 38-27 Chiefs. So, JP, enjoy it, my man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Shane. Great to be with you.
That's JP Shadrick on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. I'll take our final time out of the program. When we come back, we'll wrap up this Friday edition. You're watching and listening. Pot Up Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey, Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TV Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios at Center State Bank. We put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. Center State Bank, member FDIC. Got a text here from Ryan. He says, there's been a lot of talk about Tampa's D-line being the difference Sunday, but I think Mahomes is just too slippery and Reed is too smart, not to mention Chris Jones and company will do their damage for KC's defense. Ryan says KC 31, Bucks 23. I got 38-27. Don't forget, folks, go to potupwithshane.com for your drawing of the Chomp Harder hat next week. And next week's lineup, we're going to be loaded up, folks. Got a pretty good lineup. I don't know what days yet, but we're going to have Tim Walton, Roland Thornquist, J.C. Deacon, all Gator coaches. And we're going to have Sarah Thomas, the first female referee in the Super Bowl. She went to my high school, by the way, folks. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Rap Spot. Having a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.